Good day everyone and welcome to our review for board exam. We are doing psychological assessment for today and we have 15 questions for this session. Ready ka na ba? Let's start! Psychological assessment review questions. Number 1. Appraisal can be defined as A. The process of assessing or estimating attributes. B. Testing which is always performed in a group setting. C. Testing which is always performed on a single individual. Or letter D. A paper and pencil measurement of assessment attributes. Number 2. A test can be defined as a systematic method of measuring a sample of behavior. Test format refers to the way items are presented. The format of an essay test is considered a or an blank format. Is it A. Subjective? B. Objective? C. Very precise? Or D. Concise? Number 3. The BLEP or BLEPP is a or an blank test because the scoring procedure is specific. Is it A. Subjective? B. Objective? C. Projective? Or D. Subtest? Number 4. A short answer test is a or an blank test. Is it A. Objective? B. Culture-free? C. Forced choice? Or D. Free choice? Number 5. The BLEP is a or an blank test. Is it A. Free choice? B. Forced choice? C. Projective? Or D. Intelligence? Number 6. The blank index indicates the percentage of individuals who answered each item correctly. Is it A. Difficulty? B. Critical? C. Intelligence? Or D. Personal? Number 7. Short answer test and projective measures utilize free response items. The civil service exam and college entrance exam uses forced choice or so-called blank items. Is it A. Vague? B. Subjective? C. Recognition? Or D. Numerical? Number 8. A true or false test has blank recognition items. Is it A. Similar? B. Free choice? C. Dichotomous? Or D. No? Number 9. A test format could be normative or ipsative. In the normative format, letter A, each item depends on the item before it. B. Each item depends on the items after it. Or C. The client must possess an IQ within the normal range. Or D. Each item is independent of all other items. Number 10. A client who takes a normative test, letter A, cannot legitimately be compared to others who have taken the test. B. Can legitimately be compared to others who have taken the test. C. Could not have taken an IQ test. Or D. Could not have taken a personality test. Number 11. In an ipsative measure, the person taking the test must compare items to one another. The result is that A. An ipsative measure cannot be utilized for career guidance. B. You cannot legitimately compare two or more people who have taken an ipsative test. C. An ipsative measure is never valid. Or D. An ipsative measure is never reliable. Number 12. Tests are often classified as speed test versus power test. A typing test used to hire secretaries would be letter a power test. B, neither a speed test nor a power test. C, a speed test. Or D, a fine example of an ipsative measure. Number 13. A counseling test consists of 300 force response items. The person taking the test can take as long as he or she wants to answer the question. Letter A. This is most likely a projective measure. B. This is most likely a speed test. C. This is most likely a power test. Or D. This is most likely an invalid measure. Number 13. An achievement test measures maximum performance, while a personality test or inventory measure A. Typical performance, B. Minimum performance, C. Unconscious traits, or D. Self-esteem by always relying on a Q-sort design. And number 15. In a spiral test, A. The items get progressively easier. B. The difficulty of the items remain constant. Letter C. The client must answer each question in a specified period of time. Or D. The items get progressively more difficult. And now, let's proceed to answers and explanation. Number 1. An appraisal can be defined as, and the answer is letter A, the process of assessing or estimating attributes. Appraisal is a broad term which includes merely testing clients. Appraisal could include a survey, observation, or even clinical interviews. So choices B, C, and D are too limited. A test is simply an instrument which measures a given sample of behavior. When we use the term measure, it merely connotes that a number or score has been assigned to the person's attribute or performance. Number 2, a test can be defined as a systematic method of measuring a sample of behavior. Test format refers to the way test items are presented. The format of an essay test is considered a or an blank format. And the answer is letter A, subjective. A subjective paradigm relies mainly on the scorer's opinion. If the rater knows the test taker's attribute, the rater's personal bias can significantly impact upon the rating. For example, an attractive examinee or an individual of some race might be given a higher rating. This is what we call as halo effect. In job setting, peer generally rate their colleagues higher than do their supervisor. In an objective test or choice B, the rater's judgment plays little or no part in the scoring process. Number 3, the BLEPP is a or an blank test because the scoring procedure is specific. And the answer is letter B, objective. Since the BLEP uses a B, or C alternative format, the raters or subjective feelings and thoughts would not be an issue. Next number 4. A short answer test is a blank test. And the answer here is letter D, pre-choice. Some exam will call this pre-response or a free response format. In any case, the salient point is that the person taking the test can respond in any manner he or she chooses. Although pre-choice response patterns can yield more information, they often take more time to score and increase subjectivity, like there is more than once or there is more than one correct answer. Although testing is often controversial, school now employs psycho-educational tests more than at any time in history. Next number, number 5. The BLEP is a or an blank test. And the answer is forced choice. Letter B. Forced choice are sometimes known as recognition items. On some tests, this format is used to control for the social desirability phenomenon, which asserts that a person puts the answer he or she feels is socially acceptable. Like, for example, the test provides alternatives that are all equal in terms of social desirability. In the MMPI-2 or Minnesota Multiphasic Inventory, for example, it uses forced choice to create a lie scale composed of human frailties that we all possess. This scale, therefore, ferrets out those individuals who try to make themselves look good, like the way they believe they should be. And next number, number 6, the blank index indicate the percentage of an individual who answered each item correctly. And the answer is letter A, difficulty. The higher the number of people who answer a question correctly, the easier the item is, and vice versa. A 0.5 difficulty index, also called difficulty value, would suggest that 50% of those tested answered the questions correctly, while 50% did not. Most theories agree that a good measure provides a wide range of items that even a poor performer can answer correctly. Number 7, short answer test and projective measure utilize free response items. The civil service exam and the college entrance exam uses forced choice or so-called blank items. And the answer is letter C, recognition. Recognition items give the examinee 2 or more alternative. Next number. A true or false test has blank recognition items. And the answer is dichotomous. Dichotomy simply means that you are presented with two opposing choices, and this explains why choice A is definitely incorrect. When a test gives the person taking exam 3 or more forced choices like the civil service exam and the college entrance exam, the psychometricians calls it a multi-point item. So choice B describes a situation in which the examinee can respond in any way he or she chooses. Number 9, a test format could be normative or ipsative. In the normative format, the answer is letter D. Each item is independent of all other items. Ipsative measures compare traits within the same individual. They do not compare a person to other person who took the instrument, like the Cooder Occupational Interest Survey, which is now called the Cooder Career Search with Person Match, is one such example. The ipsative test allows the person being tested to compare items. Number 10, a client who takes a normative test, the answer is letter B, can legitimately be compared to others who have taken the test. First, forget about choice A, it's ipsative. Technically, a normative interpretation is one in which the individual score is evaluated by comparing it to others who took the same test. A percentile rank is an excellent example. Say, your client score an 82 on a nationally normed test. On this score corresponds to the percentile rank of 60. This tells you that 60% of the individuals who took the test scored 82 or less. Number 11. In an ipsative measure, the person taking the test must compare items to one another. The result is that the answer is letter B. You cannot legitimately compare two or more people who have taken an ipsative test. Since the ipsative measure does not reveal absolute strength, comparing one person's score to another is relatively meaningless. The person is measured in response to his or her own standard of behavior. The ipsative measure points. It points out the highs and lows that exist within a single individual. Hence, when a colleague tells you that Mr. Edwards' anxiety is improving, she has given you an ipsative description. This description, however, would not lend itself to comparing Mr. Edwards' anxiety to Mrs. Cruz's. Number 12. Tests are often classified as speed tests versus power tests. A time typing test used to hire secretaries would be, the answer is letter C, a speed test. In terms of difficulty, a speed test is really intended to be fairly easy. The difficulty is induced by the time limitations and not the difficulty of the task or the questions themselves. Okay? Try giving your secretary a time keyboard test and give him or her 3 hours to complete it, and you'll see that he or she can do it well. A good time or speed test is purposely set up so that nobody finishes it. A power test, like choice A, is designed to evaluate the level of mastery without a time limit. A time test is really a type of speed test, but a high percentage of the test takers complete it, and it is usually more difficult and has a time limit. Number 13. A counseling test consists of 300 forced response items. The person taking the test can now take as long as he or she wants to answer the question. So the answer here is letter C. This is most likely a power test. Like the speed test, it will ideally be designed so that nobody receives a perfect score. Choice A, projective measure, stands incorrect since the projective tests rely on free response format. And number 14, an achievement test measures maximum performance while a personality test or interest inventory measures. And the answer is letter A, typical performance. Interest inventories are popular with career counselors because such measures focus on what the client likes or dislikes. The strong interest inventory is an excellent example. So choice D, the Q sort, often used to investigate personality traits, involves a procedure in which an individual is given cards with statement and asked to place them in piles of most like me or least like me. Then the subject compiles them to create the ideal self. The ideal self can then be compared to his or her current perception in order to assess self-esteem. And number 15. In a spiral test, the answer is letter D. The items get progressively more difficult. Just remember that a spiral staircase, it seems to get more difficult to climb as you walk up higher. And that's the end of our drill for today. I hope you learned a lot. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell for updates on our drill. Keep safe and have a nice day. Good day everyone and welcome to our review for board exam. Again, we are going to do psychological assessment and today we have 15 questions for this session. Ready ka na ba? Let's start! Psychological assessment review questions. Number 1. In a cyclical test, A. The items get progressively easier. B. The difficulty of the items remain constant. C. You have several sections which are spiral in nature. Or D. The client must answer each question in a specified period of time. Number 2. A test battery is considered A. A horizontal test. B. A vertical test. C. A valid test. Or D. A reliable test. Number 3. In a counseling research study, two groups of subjects took a test with the same name. However, when they talked with each other, they discovered that the questions were different. The researcher assured both groups that they were given the same test. How is this possible? Is it A, the researcher is not telling the truth? The groups could not possibly have taken the same test? B, the test was horizontal. C, the test was not a power test. Or D, the researcher gave parallel forms of the same test. Number 4, the most critical factors in test selections are A, the length of the test and the number of people who took the test in the norming process. B, horizontal versus vertical. C, validity and reliability. And letter D, spiral versus cyclical format. Number 5, which is more important, validity or reliability? Is it A, reliability? B, they are equally important. C, validity. Or D, it depends on the test in question. Number 6, in the field of testing, validity refers to letter A, whether the test really measures what it purports to measure. B, whether the same test gives consistent measurement. C, the degree of cultural bias in a test. Or letter D, the fact that numerous tests measure the same test. Number 7, a counselor peruses a testing catalog in search of a test which will repeatedly give consistent result. The counselor, letter A, is interested in a reliability. B, is interested in validity. C, is looking for information which is not available. Or letter D, is magnifying an unimportant issue. Number 8, which measure would yield the highest level of reliability? Is it A, PAT, projective test popular with psychodynamic helpers? B, the WAIS 3, a popular IQ test. C, the MMPI-2, a popular personality test. Or letter D, a very accurate scale. Number 9, construct validity refers to the extent that a test measures an abstract trait or psychological notion. An example would be A, height, B, weight, C, ego strength, or D, the ability to name all men who have served as Philippine president. Number 10, face validity refers to the extent that a test, letter A, looks or appears to measure the intended attribute. B, measures a theoretical construct. C, appears to be constructed in an artistic fashion. Or D, can be compared to job performance. Number 11, a job test which predicted future performance on a job very well would, letter A, have high criterion or predictive validity. B, have excellent face validity. C, have excellent construct validity. Or D, not have incremental validity or synthetic validity. Number 12, a new IQ test which yielded result nearly identical to other standardized measure would be said to have letter A, good concurrent validity. Letter B, good face validity. Letter C, superb internal consistency. Or letter D, all of the above. Number 13. When a counselor tells a client that the graduate record examination or GRE will predict her ability to handle graduate work, the counselor is referring to, is it A, good concurrent validity, B, construct validity, C, face validity, or D, predictive validity. 14. A reliable test is blank valid. A, always. B, 90%. C, not always. Or D, 80%. And number 15. A valid test is blank reliable. Is it A, not always? B, always. C, never. Or D, 80%. And let's now proceed to answers and explanation. Number 1, a cyclical test, and the answer is letter C. You have several sections which are spiral in nature. In each section, the question would go from easy ones to those that are more difficult. Number 2, a test battery is considered, and the answer is letter A, a horizontal test. In a test battery, several measures are used to produce results that could be more accurate than those derived from merely using a single source. In testing, a vertical test would have versions for various age brackets or levels of education like math achievement test for preschoolers and a version for grade school. A horizontal test measures factors like math and science during the same testing procedure. Number 3, in counseling research study, two groups of subjects took a test with the same name. However, when they talked with each other, they discovered that the questions were different. The researcher assured both groups that they were given the same test. How is it possible? The answer is letter D. The researchers gave parallel forms of the same test. When a test has two versions or forms that are interchangeable, they are termed parallel form or equivalent form of the same test. From a statistical or psychometric standpoint, each point or form must have the same mean, standard deviation, or standard error, and other statistical component. Number 4, the most critical factors in test selections are, the answer is letter C, validity and reliability. Validity refers to whether the test measures what it says it measures, while reliability tells us how consistent a test measures an attribute. Number 5, which is more important, validity or reliability? And the answer is letter C, validity. Experts nearly always consider validity the number one factor in the construction of a test. A test must measure what it purports to measure. Reliability, or choice A, is the second most important concern. A scale, for example, must measure body weight accurately if it is a valid instrument. And in order to be reliable, it will need to give repeated readings which are nearly identical for the same person if the person keeps stepping on and off the scale. Number 6, in the field of testing, validity refers to, and the answer is letter A. whether the test really measures what it purports to measure. To be valid, the test must measure what you want it to measure. Incidentally, a test which is valid for one population is not necessarily valid for another group. There are 5 basic types of validity that we should all be familiar with. Number 1, no? The first is the content validity, or what is sometimes called the rational or logical validity. Like, does the test examine or sample of behavior under scrutiny? An IQ test, for example, that did not sample the entire range of intelligence, let's say the test just sampled memory and not vocabulary or math or others, it would have a poor content validity. So in this case, a savant might truly score higher than a well-rounded individual with genius level mentality. Second, construct validity, which refers to a test ability to measure a theoretical construct like intelligence, self-esteem, artistic talent, mechanical ability, or managerial potential. And third is concurrent validity, which deals with how well the test compares to other instruments that are intended for the same purpose. Fourth, predictive validity is also known as empirical validity, which reflects the test ability to predict future behavior according to established criteria. On some exams, concurrent validity and predictive validity are often lumped under the umbrella of criterion validity, since concurrent validity and predictive validity are actually different types of criterion-related validity. And fifth, a small body of literature speaks of consequential validity, which simply tries to ascertain the social implication of using the test. Number 7, a counselor peruses a testing catalog in search of a test which will repeatedly give consistent result. The counselor, and the answer is letter A, is interested in reliability. We have to be aware that a test can indeed be reliable yet not valid. A highly reliable test could conceivably prove invalid. A scale that invariably reads 29 kilos when you weigh 43 kilos would hardly be providing a valid assessment of your true weight. The score, nevertheless, is consistent or reliable. Thus, a test can have a high reliability coefficient but still have low validity coefficient. Reliability places a ceiling on validity, but validity does not set the limits on reliability. Number 8, which measures would yield the highest level of reliability? And the answer? Letter D, a very accurate scale. In the real world, physical measurements are more reliable than psychological ones. Number 9, construct validity refers to the extent that a test measures an abstract trait or psychological notion. An example would be, and the answer is letter C, ego strength. Any trait you cannot directly measure or observe can be considered a construct. Number 10, face validity refers to the extent that a test, the answer is A, looks or appears to measure the intended attribute. Most experts technically no longer list face validity as 6 types of validity. Face validity, like a person's face, merely tells you whether the test looks like it measures the intended trait. Does your therapist look like a therapist? Does the Wechsler appear to be an IQ test? The obvious answer is, in most cases, who cares? It's not that important. And if a therapist looks like a good therapist, does that necessarily mean that he is adept in therapy? Of course not. And the same is true of testing. Face validity is not required test information according to the 1974 committee that drafted the standards for educational and psychological tests. Number 11, a job test which predicted future performance on a job very well would. The answer, letter A, have high criterion or predictive validity. Here, you are concerned with the test, whether it will measure an independent or external outside criterion. In this case, future prediction of job performance. We have to note that A would be incorrect on questions such as this. If the question specified job performance, if this were the case, then technically only the term criterion would apply. So choice D, introduces you to the terms incremental validity and synthetic validity. Although incremental validity and systematic validity are not considered two of the 5 or 6 major types of validity, don't be surprised if they pop up in your exam questions. The term incremental validity has been used to describe a number of testing phenomena. First and foremost, incremental validity had been used to describe the process by which a test refined and becomes more valid as contradictory items are dropped. Next, number 12. A new IQ test which yielded results nearly identical to other standardized test measures would be said to have, letter A, a good concurrent validity. Criterion validity could be concurrent or predictive. Concurrent validity answers the question of how well your test stacks up against a well-established test measures that the same behavior or construct or traits. Evidence for reliability and validity is expressed through correlation coefficient. Suffice to say that the closer you are to 1, the better. You also should be familiar with the terms convergent and discriminant validity. These terms relate to both criterion validity and construct validity. The relationship or correlation of a test to an independent measure or trait is known as convergent validity. Convergent validity is actually a method used to assess a test, construct, or criterion validity by correlating test scores with an outside source. Let's say, for example, that a measure purports to measure phobic response. A client who has a snake phobia is then exposed to a snake and experienced extreme panic. If the client scores higher on the test than he would in a relaxed state, then this would display convergent validity. The tests also show discriminant validity. This means the test will not reflect unrelated variables. Hence, if phobias are unrelated to IQ, then when one correlates IQ scores to their scores on test phobia, this should produce a zero or near zero correlation. Similarly, if discriminant validity is evident, a counselor who is genuinely qualified to sit for a state licensing exam should score higher on the exam than a student who flunked an introductory counseling course. When a researcher is engaged in test validation, both convergent and discriminant validity should be thoroughly examined. Number 13, when a counselor tells a client that the graduate record exam, GRE, will predict her ability to handle graduate work, the counselor is referring to. The answer, letter D, predictive validity. The GRE or the Scholastic Aptitude Test or the college entrance exam and public opinion polls are effective only if they have high predictive validity, which is the power to accurately describe future behavior or events. Again, the subtypes of criterion validity are concurrent and predictive validity. Number 14, a reliable test is blank valid. The answer is not always letter C. Again, shout this out loud, a reliable test is not always valid. Reliability nonetheless determines the upper level of validity. And number 15, a valid test is blank reliable. And the answer is letter B, always. A valid test is always reliable. Choice B is correct because a test that measures a given trait well does so repeatedly. Remember that a reliable test, however, is not necessarily always valid. After all, like a depression scale that was invalid and really measured anxiety could produce consistent, reliable anxiety data. And that's the end of our drill for today. I hope you learned a lot. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell for updates on our drill. Keep safe and have a nice day. Good day everyone and welcome to our review for board exam. Again, we will be doing psychological assessment for today. We'll have another 15 questions for this session. Ready ka na ba? Let's start! Psychological assessment review questions. Number 1. One method of testing reliability is to give the same test to the same group of people 2 times and then correlate the scores. This is called A. Test-retest reliability, B. Equivalent forms reliability, C. Alternate forms reliability, or D. The split half method. Number 2. One method of testing reliability is to give the same population alternate forms of identical tests. Each form will have the same psychometric or statistical properties as the original instrument. This is known as A. Test-retest reliability, B. Equivalent or alternate form reliability, C. The split half method, or D. Internal consistency. Number 3. A counselor doing research decided to split a standardized test in half by using the even item as one test and the odd items as the second test, and then correlating them. The counselor, letter A, used an invalid procedure to test reliability. B. Was testing reliability via the split half method. C. Was testing reliability via the equivalent form method. And letter D. Was testing reliability via the inter-rater method. Number 4. Which method of reliability testing would be useful with an essay test but not with a test of algebra problems? Letter A, test-retest. Letter B, alternate forms. Letter C, split half. Or letter D, inter-rater or inter-observer. Number 5, a reliability coefficient of 1.0 indicates A. A lot of variance in the test. B. A score with high level of error. C. A perfect score which has no error. Or D. A typical correlation on most psychological and counseling tests. Number 6. An excellent psychological or counseling test would have high reliability coefficient of, is it A, 50, B, 0.9, C, 1.0, or D, negative 0.90. Number 7, a researcher working with a personality test discovers that the test has a reliability coefficient of 0.70, which is somewhat typical. This indicates that letter A, 70% of the score is accurate, while 30% is inaccurate. B, 30% of the people who are tested will receive accurate scores. Or C, 70% of people who are tested will receive accurate scores. Or D, 30% of the score is accurate while 70% is inaccurate. Number 8, a career counselor is using a test for job selection purposes. An acceptable reliability coefficient would be blank or higher. Is it A, 0.20, B, 0.55, C, 0.80, or D, 0.70? Number 9. The same test is given to the same group of people using the test-retest reliability method. The correlation between the first and second administration is 0.7. The true variance, like percentage or of shared variance or the level of the same thing measured in both, is A, 70%, B, 100%, C, 50%, or D, 49%. Number 10, IQ means. Is it A, a query of intelligence? B, indication of intelligence? C, intelligence quotient? Or D, intelligence questions for test construction? Number 11, who did research and concluded that intelligence was normally distributed like height or weight, and that it was primarily genetic? Is it A, Spearman, B, Guilford, C, Williamson, or D, Francis Galton? Number 12, Francis Galton felt intelligence was, is it A, a unitary faculty, B, best explained via a two-factor theory, C, best explained via the person's environment, or D, fluid and crystallized in nature? Number 13, J.P. Guilford isolated 120 factors which added up to intelligence. He also is remembered for his A, thoughts on convergent and divergent thinking, B, work on cognitive therapy, C, work on behavior therapy, or D, work to create the first standardized IQ test. Number 14, a counselor is told by a supervisor to measure the internal consistency reliability, like homogeneity, of a test, but not to divide the test in halves. The counselor would need to utilize A, the split half method, B, the test-retest method, C, the Kuder-Richardson coefficient of equivalence, or D, a cross-validation. And last, number 15. The first intelligence test was created by A, David Wechsler, B, J.P. Guilford, C, Francis Galton, or letter D, Alfred Binet and Theodore Simon. And now, let's proceed to answers and explanation. Number 1. One method of testing reliability is to give the same test to the same group of people 2 times and then correlate the scores. This is called, the answer is letter A, test-retest validity. The well-known test-retest method discussed here tests for stability, which is the ability of a test score to remain stable or fluctuate over time. When the client takes the test again, when using the test-retest paradigm, the client generally takes the same test after waiting at least 7 days. The test-retest procedure is only valid for traits such as IQ, which remains stable over time and not altered by mood, memory, or practice effect. Number two, one method of testing reliability is to give the same population alternate forms of the identical test. Each form will have the same psychometric statistical properties as the original instrument. This is known as letter B, equivalent or alternate form reliability. Here, a single group of examinee takes parallel forms of a test and a reliability correlation coefficient is figured on two sets of scores. Counterbalancing is necessary when testing reliability in this fashion. That is to say, half of the individuals get parallel form A first and half get B initially. This controls for variables such as fatigue, practice, and motivation. Number three, a counselor doing research decided to split a standardized test in half by using the even item as one test and the odd items as the second test and then correlating them. The counselor is letter B, was testing reliability via the split half method. In this situation, the individual takes the entire test as a whole and then the test is divided into halves. The correlation between the half scores yields a reliable coefficient. When a researcher does not use even versus odd questions to split the test, he or she may do so using random number, merely dividing a test according to first half versus second half. It could confound the data due to practice and fatigue effects. Number four, which method of reliability testing would be useful with an essay test but not with the test of algebra problems? And the answer is letter D, inter-rater or inter-observer. Using choice D, several raters assess the same performance. This method has been called scorer reliability and is utilized with subjective tests such as projective to ascertain whether the scoring criteria are such that two persons who grade or assess the response will produce roughly the same scores. Number five, a reliability coefficient of 1.00 indicates, and the answer is letter A or letter C, a perfect score which has no error. As stated earlier, this generally occurs only in physical measurement. Number six, an excellent psychological or counseling test would have a reliability coefficient of, and the answer is letter B, 0.9. 90% of the score measured the attribute in question, while 10% of the score is indicative of error. Number seven, a researcher working with a personality test discovers that the test has a reliability coefficient of 0.70, which is somewhat typical. This indicates that, and the answer is letter A, 70% of the score is accurate, while 30% is inaccurate. Number eight, a career counselor is using a test for job selection purposes. An acceptable reliability coefficient would be blank or higher. And the answer is letter C, 0.80. And although 0.70 is generally acceptable for both psychological attributes for admissions for jobs, school, and so on, it should be at least 0.8, and some expert will not settle for less than 0.9. Number nine, the same test is given to the same group of people using test-retest reliability method. The correlation between the first and the second administration is 0.7. The true variance, like percentage of shared variance, or the level of the same thing measured in both is, the answer is letter D, 49%. So the key here is simplifying a question. To demonstrate the variance of one factor accounted by another, you merely have to square the correlation. Like what we have here is 0.70. So 0.70 times 0.70 is equals to 0.49. And 0.49 times 100 is 49%. Your exam could refer to this principle as the coefficient of determination. Number 10, IQ means letter C, intelligence quotient. A quotient is the result when you perform division. The early ratio formula for Binet IQ score was mental age divided by chronological age times 100. The score indicated how you compared to those in your group age. 11. Who did research and concluded that intelligence was normally distributed like height or weight and that it was primarily genetic? The answer is letter D, Francis Galton. Galton felt intelligence was a single or so-called unitary factor. Number 12. Francis Galton felt intelligence was. The answer is letter A, unitary factor. Sir Francis Galton of England has been recognized as one of the major pioneers in the study of individual differences. Darwin believed that exceptional mental abilities were genetic and ran in family, and said just that in his 1869 work, Hereditary Genius. Choice B illuminates the position of Charles Spearman, who in 1904 postulated two factors, a general ability and a specific ability, or S, which were thought to be applicable to any mental task. As per choice D, it pops on exam from time to time. Fluid intelligence is flexible, culture-free, and adjust to situation, while crystallized is rigid and does not change or adapt. Number 13, J.P. Gilford isolated 120 factors which added up to intelligence. He is also remembered for his letter A, thoughts on convergent and divergent. Using factor analysis, Gilford determined that there were 120 elements or abilities which added up to intelligence. Two of the dimensions, convergent and divergent thinking, are still popular terms today. Convergent thinking occurs when divergent thoughts and ideas are combined into a singular concept. Divergent thinking is the ability to generate a novel idea. So choice D would reflect primarily the work of Binet and Simon. Number 14, a counselor is told by his supervisor to measure the internal consistency, reliability of a test, but not to divide the test in halves. The counselor would need to utilize, and the answer is letter C, the Kuder-Richardson coefficient of equivalence. Internal consistency of homogeneity of items also is known as interim consistency. In plain everyday language, the supervisor wants the counselor to find out if each item on the test is measuring the same thing as every other item. Is performance on one item truly related to performance on another? This can be done by using the KR or Kuder-Richardson estimate, which are often denoted on exam as KR20 or KR21 formulas. Another statistic, Lee J. Cronbach, or the Cronbach-Alpha's coefficient, has been used in this respect. So choice A is incorrect. Yes, the split-half method does investigate internal consistency reliability, but it relies on splitting the test into halves. And last number 15, the first intelligence test was created by The answer is letter D, Alfred Binet and Theodore Simon. The year was 1904, and the French government appointed a commission to ferret out feeble-minded Parisians from those who were normal. Alfred Binet led the committee, and the rest is history. In 1905, Binet, along with his co-worker Simon, created a 30-question test with school-related items of increasing difficulty. Binet used his own daughters as test subjects in order to investigate mental processes, and also is cited as one of the pioneers in projective testing based on his work with ink blots. After testing nearly 3,000 children in the US in 1916, Lewis and Thurman of the Stanford University published an American version of the Binet that was translated into English and adapted to American children. In case you don't know the word yet, Stanford was adapted to the word Stanford University. And that's the end of our drill for today. I hope you learned a lot. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell for updates on our drills. Keep safe and have a nice day. Magandang araw sa lahat, and once again, welcome to our review for board exam. We are doing the fourth part of our psychological assessment review today, and we will have 15 questions for this session. And I am ready when you are. Let's start. Psychological assessment review questions. Number 1. Today, the Stanford Binet IQ test is A. Non-standardized measure, B. A standardized measure, C. A projective measure, D. B and C. Number 2. IQ stands for intelligence quotient, which is expressed by letter A, CA over MA times 100. Letter B, MA over CA times 50. Letter C, MA over CA times 50. Or letter D, MA over CA times 100. Number 3, the Binet stress age-related task utilizing this method. A 9-year-old task would be one which A. Only a 10-year-old child could answer. B. Only an 8-year-old child could answer. C. 50% of the 9-year-olds could answer correctly. Or D. 75% of 9-year-olds could answer correctly. Number 4. Simon and Binet pioneered the first IQ test around 1905. The test was created to A. Assess high school senior in America. B. Assess U.S. military recruits. C. Discriminate normal from retarded Parisian children. Or D. Measure genius in the college population. Number 5. Today, the Stanford Binet is used from ages 2 to adulthood. The IQ formula has been replaced by the A. SAS, B. SUDS, C. Entropy, or D. ACPA. Number 6. Most experts would agree that the Wechsler's IQ test gained popularity as the Binet, letter A, must be administered in a group. B. Favored the geriatric population. C. Didn't seem to be the best test for adults. Or D. Was biased towards women. Number 7. The best IQ test for a 20-year-old single male would be the A. WPPSI 3, B, WAIS 3, or C, WISC 4, or D, computer-based testing. Number 8, the best intelligence test for a 6th grade girl would be the A, WPPSI 3, B, WAIS 3, letter C, WISC 4, or D, Merrill Palmer. Number 9, the best intelligence test for a kindergarten would be the A, WPPSI 3, B, WAIS 3, C, WISC 4, or D, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. Number 10, the mean of the Wechsler and the Binet is Planck, and the standard deviation is A, 100 and 100, B, 115 for Wechsler and 16 for Binet, C, 120, or D, 101. Number 11, group IQ tests like the Otis-Lennon, the Lord Thorndike, and the California test of mental abilities are popular in school setting. The advantage is that A, group tests are quicker to administer. B, group tests are superior form in terms of predicting school performance. C, group tests always have a higher degree of reliability. Or D, individual IQ tests are not appropriate for school children. Number 12, the group IQ test movement began A, in 1905, B, with the work of Binet, C, with the Army Alpha and Army Beta in the First World War, or letter D, with the AGCT in the Second World War. Number 13, in a culture fair test, A, items are known to the subject regardless of his or her culture. B, the test is not standardized. C, culture-free items cannot be utilized. Or D, African Americans generally score higher than whites. Number 14, the black versus white IQ controversy was sparked mainly by the 1969 article written by A, John Earl, B, Raymond Cattell, C, Arthur Jensen, or D, Robert Williams. Number 15, the MMPI-2 is A, an IQ test, B, a neurological test, C, a projective personality test, or D, a standardized test. And let's now proceed to answers and explanation. Number 1, today, the Stanford Binet IQ test is, the answer is letter B, a standardized measure. The Stanford Binet is standardized because the scoring and administration procedures are formal and well delineated. Measures which are not standardized, like choice A, lack procedural guidelines for scoring or administration and do not include quantitative information related to standards of performance. Number 2, IQ stands for the intelligence quotient, which is expressed by, the answer is letter B. The test is Binet's, but the most famous formula was created by the German Wilhelm Stern. The formula produced what is known as a ratio IQ today. A deviation IQ is utilized which compares the individual to a norm, like the person is compared to other in his or her group age. Thus, the present score indicates deviation from the norm. Although we still use the term IQ, the Binet today actually relies on a standardized age score, SAS, with a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 16. The Binet stress age-related task utilizing this method, a 9-year-old task would be one which the answer is letter C. 50% of the 9-year-olds could answer correctly. A 9-year-old task was defined as one in which one half of the 9-year-olds tested could answer successfully. Number 4, Simon and Binet pioneered the first IQ test around 1905. The test was created to, and the answer is letter C, discriminate normal from retarded Parisian children. The Minister of Public Instruction from the Paris schools wanted to test to identify mentally retarded children so that they could be taught separately. The assumption was made that intelligence was basically the ability to understand school-related material. In this regard, the choice D, some experts believe that Wechsler's is a better test for those who fall in the average range, while the Stanford-Binet is more accurate for assessing extremes of intellect. Number 5, today the Stanford-Binet is used from ages 2 to adulthood. The IQ formula has been replaced by the, and the answer is letter A, SAS. Although we still use the term IQ, the Binet today actually relies on a standard age score, SAS, with a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 16. Number 6, most experts would agree that Wechsler's IQ test gained popularity as the Binet, and the answer is letter C. Didn't seem to be the best test for adults. Choice A is incorrect. Both the Binet and the Wechsler's are individual tests which require specific training beyond the required for a group IQ test. David Wechsler felt the Binet was slanted towards verbal skill, and thus he added performance skills to a certain attributes which might have been cultivated in the background, which did not stress verbal proficiency. The Wechsler's yield a verbal IQ, performance IQ, and a full-scale IQ. The Weiss tree has 7 verbal scales and 7 performance scales. Number 7, the best IQ for a 20-year-old single male would be the, and the answer is letter B, Weiss tree. Choice A, the WIPC or the Wechsler's preschool and primary scale of intelligence is suitable for ages 2 to 6 months to 7 to 3 months. Choice B, the Wechsler's adult intelligence scale is intended for ages 16 and beyond. Choice C, the Wechsler's intelligence scale for children is appropriate for 6 to 16 years, 11 months. And choice D is indicative of a paper and pencil test that has been modified so that the client can take the test via computer. Number 8, the best intelligence test for the 6th grade girl would be the, and the answer is letter C. Number 9, the best intelligence test for kindergarten would be the, and the answer is the WIPC 3. Since the child most likely would be between 3 to 7 years of age and 3 months, the WIPC would be the only possible choice. Choice D, the MBTI, is based on Carl Jung's analytic psychology. The MBTI uses dichotomous types. The test results in a 4-letter type score such as ISFJ, introversion, sensing, feeling, judging. We have to take note that intuition, though it begins with an I, is coded an N, since introversion begins with an I. Important exam hint, don't forget this. When a test is guided via a theory, it is known as a theory-based test or inventory. Number 10, the mean of the Wechsler and Binet is blank, and the standard deviation is blank. And the answer is letter B, 100, 15 for Wechsler, and 16 for Stanford-Binet. IQs above 100 are above average, and those shy of 100 are below average. Number 11, group IQ tests like the Otis-Lennon and the Lord Thorndike and California test of mental abilities are popular in school settings. The advantage is that, and the answer is letter A, group tests are quicker to administer. The First World War provided the impetus for the group testing movement. Approximately 2 million men were tested using the Army Alpha for literate and Army Beta for illiterate, and those from other countries. The catch is that the group tests are less inaccurate, the group tests are less accurate and have low reliability. Number 12, the group IQ test movement began, and the answer is letter C, with the Army Alpha and Army Beta in the First World War. We have to take note of the word group testing. Okay? Number 13. In a culture fair test, the answer is letter A. Items are known to the subject regardless of his or her culture. The culture fair test attempts to expunge items which would be known only to an individual due to his or her background. The key is that ethics now consider it unethical to administer a test to a client from a given population unless that the test or inventory has been normed on that specific population. Number 14. The black versus white IQ controversy was sparked mainly by a 1969 article written by, and the answer is Arthur Jensen. John Ertl claimed he invented an electronic machine to analyze neural efficiency and take the place of the paper and pencil IQ test. The device relies on a computer, an EEG, a strobe light, and an electrode helmet. Jensen sparked tremendous controversy, actually that's putting it mildly, when he suggested that 1969 Harvard Educational Review article, How Much Can We Boost IQ and Scholastic Performance? That the closer people are genetically, the more alike their IQ scores will be. And number 15, the MMPI-2 is, and the answer is, a standardized personality test. The original version of this instrument was created in 1940. The Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory 2. The current version since 1989 is known as a self-report personality inventory. The new MMPI designated via the version 2 is intended to help clinicians diagnose and treat patients. The test is said to have retained the best factors of the MMPI while updating the test and eliminating sexist wording. I hope you learned something new for today. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell para ma-update kayo sa ating mga drills. Keep safe and have a nice day.